Hello, thank you for joining me in a new video. Today I have the unboxing of the Nubia Z70 Ultra for you. Let's go ahead and get started. The launch price for this device in Mexico is 16,999 pesos for the basic edition. You can see the dollar reference price on screen to understand that this device offers great specs for its price. The Nubia Z series is known for its camera focus, making it very appealing. Let's unbox the device for a closer look. We are directly interacting with the device itself. Here we will carefully remove this plastic cover to get a closer look at its design. We will also take off the sticker and observe closely. This is the light color edition, but there is also a darker version and another one in blue. In terms of design, it closely resembles the previous generation, featuring a rectangular module that extends from the main body to house the high-resolution cameras. Additionally, it includes striking highlights in red color for emphasis on I'm thrilled to have this camera essence. In a moment, we'll explore more about this device. Let me turn it on while we check what's included in the box. Inside, there's another box containing the tool to remove the tray. We'll also find the usual paperwork, quick info, and finally a case, which is a surprise because it comes with the design too. It's not one of those transparent silicone cases that end up turning yellow over time. Instead, it matches the device's color, or at least a similar shade, like a cream tone, more or less. In this particular case, it has a soft touch with semi-rigid edges, providing solid protection against falls. Additionally, the matte finish is another reason I choose to use a case this time around. Unlike most phones, which I usually prefer to use without the case, this design makes me opt for one. But please let me know which you prefer, with a case or without one. That's everything that was inside this small envelope. And as you're aware, Nubia is a brand that enjoys placing a box within another box. So we discovered a box specifically designed to hold the cable, which, as you will notice, is red, reminiscent of red magic. I remember they belong to the same family. On one side we find the USB-C connector, and on the other side it's the same. This makes the experience quite positive and modern overall. We're also going to find another box here which contains the charger. Upon opening it, we will notice that it is quite a large charger. Since this is a review unit, it comes with a European connector. However, when you purchase it in your country, it should arrive with the appropriate adapter. This charger supports a maximum of 80 watts, making it a very powerful charger. During the video review, we will test this charger to see how much time it takes to fully charge this cell phone. So, this is a device that is very well equipped. It includes its charger, its cable, and its case. Not bad at all for a device at this price point with these specifications. Honestly, in that regard, it is quite surprising. Now, let's focus directly on the cell phone to learn about its specifications. I already have the device here in my hands. Notice that it features extremely thin bezels. And as you can see, it seems to have no front camera because it is located below the screen, so the experience is spectacular from the front. It's 8.6mm thick and weighs 228 grams. Of course, being a high-end device, is not going to distinguish itself by being very light or very thin, but it feels very solid in the hand. Aluminum. Frames. Comes with a switch on the left side that, as you will notice, will give us quick access to the camera, which is the protagonist in this series, although you can probably customize it, as it also brings another dedicated button on the right side. To be able to access the camera, just hold it down and notice that this button is a two-step button. So when you press it lightly, it's going to activate the focus, and when you finish pressing it, it's going to take the picture. So it's very similar to what we see on cameras. Let's say for dedicated use, with a two-step button that allows you to focus and shoot. It's also going to offer us IP68 and IP69, so this device is perfectly waterproof. The screen is 685 inches in its diagonal and is going to offer us a resolution of 2688 x 1216 pixels, that is slightly higher than Full HD. It has a refresh rate of 144 Hz and obviously offers OLED technology to have very good contrast, very good color saturation, and also good viewing angle. So it's a really very good screen. As I anticipated you, the front camera is underneath the screen. In this case, it is 16 megapixels with f2.0 aperture. As you can see in the preview, the result isn't very well optimized, but once we take the picture, we'll notice an improved level of detail. Given that the camera is positioned below the screen, it's quite surprising how well the picture turns out, especially in daylight. Of course, it's not a selfie specialist, but I believe the camera can hold its own considering it's beneath the screen. Even though this device is primarily focused on photography, I think I would prefer have a camera with a crop giving priority to image quality. However, it seems to me that in this situation, Nubia prioritizes the display of the photos taken with the rear camera. In other words, when you are reviewing the photos, you won't experience any smearing or interruptions while viewing the captured images. On the back, we will find the most appealing feature of the cameras. The main one is 35mm, which is different from the vast majority of smartphone cameras. Today it measures 24mm, offering a close-up perspective. Photography enthusiasts might appreciate this 35mm lens, which is quite rare in cell phone photography. The sensor is 50 megapixels, made by Sony, with a variable aperture from f1.59 for excellent light intake to f4 for more even focus. In automatic mode, the aperture adjusts without user intervention, but you can enter also the expert mode, and from this section if you can get to manually adjust the aperture. Watch, it's closed, and now we're going to open it, and it's impressive to see this effect in real life. I insist, this helps you take pictures with a little more even focus if it's closed, or you can generate more blur when you have everything more open, and of course better light entry. Then we are going to find an ultra wide angle camera of 18mm with a 50 megapixel sensor and aperture. F2.0 set on in addition to autofocus, although 18mm is not as wide as 14, 13 or 12mm cameras that we see in other smartphones. So consider that it is not a spectacular ultra-wide capture. Finally, we have the 64 megapixel camera with this telephoto lens. It's a 70mm lens, i.e. in traditional smartphones would be optical zoom 3x. But obviously in the smartphone, considering 35mm as 1x, we speak of a shorter zoom. Supposedly, it features an f2.48 aperture and includes optical stabilization. Now, let's look at the example shots. The 18mm camera is labeled ultra-wide, but it's not extremely wide. It lets us take 24mm photos with a traditional smartphone perspective, but lacks detail, indicating a digital crop. The 35mm main camera, as I told you, is much closer than normal on other cell phones, but it gives us a more professional perspective, so to speak. Here is another photo of 35mm, just so we can start to see a little more of the zoom of this device. It also allows us to take pictures of 50mm, and in this case, if it retains a good level of detail, it does not look like digital zoom, nothing more. Then we will locate the 70mm camera, but interestingly, the shortcut directly takes us to 85mm. Remember, you can click on these settings to toggle between various supported focal lengths. However, as I mentioned, interestingly, when you switch to 85, you can click once more to switch to 140. And if you click again, it switches to 70%, which is the precise focal length of this lens. So the behavior is a little bit strange, but the result is positive. At 70mm, also at 85mm, we are going to see a good image quality. It doesn't seem to be digital cropping. It really maintains optical quality. Even at 140mm, we still see excellent image quality. So this zoom setting still has very good sharpness. At 175mm, we start to notice the digital zoom a bit more, but it maintains good quality. At 350mm, that would be 10x zoom. In this device, it is much more noticeable that it is digital zoom, although in terms of other smartphones, we would talk about 14.5, x zoom or so. I think this is the maximum zoom where it still has a good quality. If we zoom in much closer, we will notice a much lower level of detail. It does not seem to have as much optimization with artificial intelligence as other smartphones. It seems to give preference to have a more natural interpretation of objects and photographs, so it is a very competitive system. For photography, although it might not stand out as much at maximum zoom. For video recording, note that it supports up to 8K at 30 frames per second with the main camera, or 4K up to 120 frames per second with both the main and telephoto, and in 4K at 60 frames per second if you can use any of the 3 rear cameras, although the front camera can only record in full HD at 30 frames per second. So it is confirmed that the front camera really has very limited capabilities. The battery has a capacity of 6,150 mAh with 80 watts charge. It is of these new generation batteries that are having higher capacity, although in the test that I do for the review, then we realize that it is not so spectacular. In the video review of this model, we will see if it goes well or badly in these tests. At the moment, it surprises us with its capacity in terms of numerical figures, but we will have to see how it performs in tests. One positive aspect is that it comes with Nebula OS, which is based on Android 15, meaning it is already updated straight from the factory. And that is excellent news. The basic model includes 12 GB of RAM with 256 GB of storage, although there are options for 16 or 24 GB of RAM, as well as 512 GB of storage, or even up to a terabyte. Obviously, there will be more expensive options, but it's nice that all of them are available. Finally, the processor is the Snapdragon 8 Elite. That is an exaggeratedly competitive processor. Look at the results it gave us in Geekbench with a single core 3037 points, and in multi-core 9408, while in Antutu it achieved 24,65,014 points. It definitely has power to spare. If you like games, you will surely get to have a very good experience, since you have to consider. Additionally, I have the GameSpace suite included in Red Magic. Essentially, it's comparable to having a Red Magic without a fan, yet it features a remarkably good rear camera. Undoubtedly, it stands as one of the most appealing options available today, considering its processor and cameras, particularly within its competitive price range. However, I want to remind you that I'll provide more details and conduct further tests in the upcoming video review. For now, we have reached the end of this video unboxing. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know that you can indicate it, and see you next time.